Good afternoon. My name is Chris Adam with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Will Banthorpe, the head men's coach at Piper Vale Gymnastics Club. Hello there, Will.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for giving up your time to speak to me this afternoon. And I know this will sound like a bit of a silly question because it's sort of in the name and we can see it all brilliantly behind you. But can you tell me a bit about Piper Vale Gymnastics Club and what it is you do?
Okay, so Piper's Vale has been open just over 20 years now. We're one of the biggest gymnastics clubs in the country. We have probably about 2,000 customers through our doors every week, and we range right through from preschool and sort of children that can't quite walk yet, so they'll come and have a crawl and sort of a free play session, right the way through to elite level athletes that compete at European and World Championship level. And we also cater for adults as well. So a bit of everything really here.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And what kind of sort of roles and people do you have within your organisation to facilitate, as you say, those 2,000 people, those people at all different kinds of levels? Yeah, what kind of sort of roles and staff are there to support all of those different parts of the business?
Okay, so obviously the main face of the coaching, the main face of the staff is going to be a coaching staff who run the day-to-day sessions. And then obviously we have a huge admin team behind the scenes. We have quite a big waiting list and obviously lots of customers that come through our doors. So a dedicated admin team to fill in our classes, going out to waiting lists and doing all the sort of behind the scenes, the admin and the payroll and that kind of jobs as well. As we are a business centre, we have facilities manager and cleaning staff and centre management staff also who are here daily. So yeah, they're the main kind of roles that we have within the gym really.
It's really interesting because, as you sort of say, like, I sort of look at the background and the operations that you describe, and then suddenly when you actually say, like, of course we've got an admin team and cleaners and stuff, and say part of me thinks like, oh yeah, so I just thought it was all, as you say, coaches and gymnasts, and so it's interesting to hear that those roles are still vital and needed. If we look a little bit more at your role as I say as a coach, can you give me a sort of an idea of, I know such thing as a typical day. I will say that in advance. Every day is different, but if you give me an idea of what a day looks like for you, the kind of, as you say, sort of people abilities you're coaching, and sort of some of the things that sort of maybe crop up during your sort of every working day.
Yeah, so for me, being the head men's coach, I work with the top 10 athletes in the gym. They range from 16 to 25 years old. And a normal day would be we come into the gym about 12:30 for our first training session. The boys or the guys will train through from about 12:30 till 4 o'clock. Then they'll take about an hour break. Within that time, I'll kind of catch up with some admin jobs, sort of catch up with any emails or planning stuff that I have to do. And then they train again from 5 o'clock through till about 8:30. So they do 2 training sessions, with obviously quite a high intensity of training. And then my job around that will be primarily coaching those, so helping them technically in what they're doing. It's quite a physical job, so I do a lot of manual handling and supporting and kind of lifting and catching gymnasts as well. So yeah, it's always very exciting. It's not your average sort of 9 to 5 office job. Get lots of opportunities to go to competitions and travel around different places in the country and around the world also. So yeah, it's very varied and sort of lots of opportunities within the job really.
That's really interesting to hear, and you sort of beat me a little bit to the punch, because I was going to talk to you about the kind of things you like about the role, and as you said there, possibility of travel, as you say, sort of variety, the physical side of things as well. If we look specifically sort of at at coaching, as it were, if we imagine we had sort of, as I say, a 16, 17-year-old young person who was sort of interested in a career in coaching, as I say, whether in any sort of sporting context, what kind of sort of traits and attributes have you found for your own experience are really useful for that kind of career path?
So I think it's really useful to be you have to be you have to kind of like the children that you're talking to and coaching. So it really helps if you can get along and you can get down on the level of the children as well, particularly the younger children. You can get down, you can be different kinds of animals with them and be on their level. It's kind of a big act really, so you've got to kind of like play acting, And as things obviously get more serious, it becomes less play acting and it's more motivational. You've got to be, just got to know how to talk to people. And wouldn't necessarily say you have to be outgoing, but you have to be a good communicator. You have to be exactly where you're going, particularly if you've got a higher level pathway that you're following. It's not going to happen in a short period of time, so you have to kind of plan ahead and know what sort of goals you're aiming for. So planning is a very important part of that. I wouldn't say you necessarily have to be in the peak of fitness yourself, but it's good to be a good role model. So if you are interested in health and fitness, that is a good benefit as well. So being a good role model and just a good communicator would be the main aspect, I think.
And from what you said there, is you're saying that maybe in a day you might have to go from, as you say, sort of like, pretending to be animals with the younger children to, being almost in an elite mindset with, as I say, someone who might be about to go off to a European competition or something like that. So I'm guessing sort of an ability to sort of adapt and think on your feet, must be quite necessary because as you say, sort of you probably have to switch mindsets from, based on the person you're coaching, quite quickly. So would you say adaptability is a skill you use quite a lot?
Absolutely, yeah. Like you hit the nail on the head, really. I mean, we have such a variety of users in the gym. We have school classes that come in and they'll just come in as a one-off session. So they just want a really fun and engaging motivational session. They're just trying real basic skills on the apparatus. Preschool children who you have to really think about how you're talking and communicating with them. Because obviously communicating with a 4-year-old is completely different to communicating with an elite athlete who knows exactly what they're trying to achieve and where they're trying to go. So that adaptability is key. And for me, it's one of the big fun challenges of being a coach is being able to, being a clever coach, you can coach all ages and ranges of people, not just that one specific age group.
And talking about the challenges of being a coach, at least we got onto my next question really, which is sort of, I think it's easier for people to imagine the, how do I put it, the good parts of the job and the rewarding parts of being a coach in terms of, whether it's seeing someone achieve their goals or, bigger goals at European competitions. What are the challenging parts of you being a coach on a day-to-day basis?
So I think probably for me, the biggest challenge would be the hours are slightly on the unsociable side. I work through into the evenings, the majority of days, and also there's a lot of weekend work that can go with it too. So from my career pathway as an elite coach, it can be very consuming. You can obviously put into it what you want to. The more you put in, the more you get out. So it can be a consuming job. It can be very that take a lot of your time, and you can go away and it can kind of get stuck in your head, and because you're so committed and focused on trying to achieve a result at the end of the day or the end of the year, whatever it is, you can kind of just go away and it's sort of in your head and you're always thinking and planning that. So it becomes almost a bit of a lifestyle as well as a job. But you have to have a real passion for it. So, particularly if you're coaching at an elite end, the passion is absolutely essential.
And if we're talking about passion, and just out of curiosity as into how you sort of get into this kind of career path, I'm not saying you didn't wake up one day when you were younger and you said, I want to be, say, head men's coach at a gymnastics club. But sort of, what was your sort of pathway into the role?
So my pathway is quite an unusual one, actually. My brother and sister, who were both younger than me, or two brothers and sisters, they wanted to do gymnastics, and they were actually very good at doing gymnastics. And I started doing it a little bit later. I got dragged along. I didn't want to go, but I got dragged along. And then I figured out that I was actually better at helping other people do gymnastics than doing it myself. So I have never really been a good gymnast at all. I don't class myself as a gymnast. In the same way, I guess that the best football managers don't have to have been the best football players. The best coaches don't necessarily have to have a good background in gymnastics. I first got into gymnastics when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I kind of started coaching part-time since about 13 years old. And it's just kind of snowballed from there, really. I went through my A-levels and went to university, and then decided to choose a career in gymnastics.
I think you made a really interesting point there when you were talking about almost like when you did the comparison to football, you were talking about how actually the best coaches don't always have to have been, the best at what they're coaching. Because as you say, sort of, I think it's more about identifying sort of, maybe the barriers that the person you're trying to coach has, where they're struggling and stuff. I could think of plenty of instances in various sports where I've known, there are people who are very, very good at the, the practical sport and the thing itself. But when it comes to the actual people management side of things, they're not as good. And it's quite really interesting that actually that's a skill you saw in yourself, and one that you sort of brought to develop. And we've touched a little bit, as you say, going back on sort of some of the skills people need, as you say, sort of communication, like it's the ability to build rapport and relationship with people, especially if they've come from different backgrounds, must be a key part of the role as well.
It's absolutely essential. I mean, another part of our job is quite often we have PRUs, pupil referral units, that come in to work with us through the day as well. So, building a rapport with a young adult from a PRU is completely different to building rapport with a toddler, which is completely different to building a rapport with an elite athlete. So, that it's really good and really adaptable to. You have so much variation within the job. It's never, no day is the same, and it's really good to just to extend your skills as well.
And sort of talking about skills, if a young person, as I say, was looking to go onto a coaching career path, I think it's quite easy to find the information and find the course out there and find the sort of formal qualification someone needs to go on a pathway into coaching. But if you were to give some advice about maybe things they could be doing in their spare time, or things they could maybe be researching, or there's kind of extra things they can do to put on their CV to maybe give them an edge once they come to sort of applying for these kind of roles, what kind of things would you advise?
So we do a shadowing scheme, which is called here. So coaches can, if they're interested in coaching, they can put a CV into us, and then I think fairly regularly, probably 3 to 4 times a year, we take on some shadowing staff, so they can come in. It's an unpaid role, but it's like a volunteer role, so it serves as a bit of a taster for the young adults that want to get involved also, and they can come and help run some of the classes with us and see what kind of a general day is. We also take work experience students, so if anybody out there is got work experience coming up, then we quite regularly have work experience guys and girls that come in to work with us also. There's plenty of information about gymnastics coaching on YouTube and Instagram, so that's a great place to start as well. And just generally, if you love working with children, if you find yourself that you're a very good communicator and you like talking to different people, then I think it's a fantastic career for you.
Fantastic, thanks, Will. That's really insightful and provides, as I say, some sort of in sector advice that young people watching this might not really have had access to. And it sort of leads me on to my final question, really. I've asked this to all the employees I've spoken to, and you've told me a little bit about sort of your journey and your sort of pathway into this career. But if you could go back and speak to, I don't know, say 17, 18-year-old Will, you're about to go out on your career path, taking into account sort of maybe some lessons you've learned, mistakes you've made, successes you've had, what's the one piece of career advice you'd go back and give to your younger self?
I would say my piece of advice would be follow your heart. Don't try to do what other people want you to do. Don't try to be who somebody else wants you to be. Choose something that you love doing, because if you are happy in your job and you enjoy your job, you feel like you never work a day in your life.